Would I be the jerk if I just tell everyone the truth about what's going on, even though it would ruin my husband's image? Edit. We already did a brain scan MRI and nothing was found. I am dyslexic and have always been bad at grammar, so excuse me please. This is non-US. Okay, so my husband has been dealing with some major issues. We have not yet figured out what it is, but he has been dealing with certain delusions. For example, it all started 6 months ago when he was convinced he had caught me cheating because he found a document saying so on my laptop. When I arrived home and he tried looking for it to show me, he obviously couldn't find it. He is going to therapy, but as of right now, we are technically separated and living in different rooms. It's just because this keeps happening. A certain insecurity eats itself into my husband, and he becomes convinced that it's the truth. He either dreams proof or he just convinces himself that anything is proof. I'd ache what he does with the therapist, but I honestly don't see it getting better. Last week, he was mad at our daughter, 15, because she didn't want him to drive her to prom and make pictures with her. When I went to ask her, she said that that was not true. She had talked to her dad about what she would like to do when she graduates in 2 years. Her father just got really mad at the perceived slight. The problem is that he keeps talking to people about the issues. I was already wondering why so many mutuals stopped responding to me, but apparently they all think I am an awful human being and terrible spouse. I just want to tell people what is going on. Also, so they are aware that my husband is basically lying to them, and for them to tell me delusions that he might be having that I don't know. But at the very beginning of his therapy, he begged me not to tell anyone because people would think he is crazy. My sister said that it would also be a jerk thing to do that would basically feed into his delusions. I just feel like I am done. Am I the jerk? Now for a few comments. Commenter, is this therapist also a psychiatrist? I'm by no means an expert, but it sounds like therapy isn't what he needs, and maybe the therapist actually believes what he is saying as well. I think a more aggressive approach is needed. He doesn't trust me, so he doesn't tell me. I know he gets professional help because he introduced us, but as far as I know, it's a therapist, not a psychiatrist. Therapist here. If he's having episodes or periods of delusion/psychosis, then a therapist alone isn't going to cut it. But a responsible therapist would insist he see a psychiatrist for delusions, wouldn't they? Unless he's not being honest about his problems. The therapist might not be aware that the things he tells are delusions. Minor delusions like, I caught my wife cheating by reading a document on her PC, and my daughter doesn't want me to drive her to prom might not be easily perceived as delusions by the therapist. Commenter, especially if he's not telling them they are delusions, as he does not seem to have any progress discerning what's real. Commenter, this is serious. It's already affecting OP, and now her daughter, which should be a red line. In future, it may escalate to violence. It's time to go ultimatum mode. Either he takes treatment for whatever disorder or complete separations, divorce, ASAP. So I'm assuming these are real actual delusions while giving this advice. First and foremost, if he hasn't yet, he has to see a neurologist to rule out any physical causes, i.e. brain tumor. And second, can you have a therapy session with him and his therapist? Tell them what is going on with your friends and family and come up with a mutual solution. With the therapist there, they can help your husband see how this is affecting everyone. IMO, this is really messy and could potentially devolve into a dangerous situation. It's not fair to anyone involved. I think, if they are real delusions, I would need to tell those very close to us. Only ones I knew loved him and would protect him. Ideally with him by my side while I told them. But, and a big one, I would need to speak with him and his therapist about it first. This needs a professional, delicate hand to guide it. You need help with this too. You, at the very least, need someone, a friend or family member you can trust, to lean on, but you should also have a professional to talk to and help you cope with this. Not the idiot. Just needs to be handled in an extremely delicate way, with much discernment, professional guidance, and love as humanly possible. Obviously, I'm not in the medical field, but I can't describe them as anything else, mainly because we have not done any of the things he convinced himself of. For example, he was convinced our oldest daughter, 19, was pregnant because she said no to sushi. She was just not in the mood for raw fish. So my husband obviously became obsessed with the idea that our daughter was pregnant. He would go to full rants saying how dare she, we gave her everything, etc. Now for the update. 5 months later, I was not allowed to update on Am I the Idiot because of the violent content of the post. I thank everyone for their supportive words, especially the people that have been through something similar. Thank you so much for sharing with me. It makes me feel less alone. Also, just because I have seen that a lot of people have not been able to read my first post, I have tried everything from getting him to a real psychologist to having him committed. I have tried with his doctor, with my mother-in-law, and with my lawyer, but he has not broken the law or actually attacked me, just threatened to unalive me and our daughter for being intimacy workers. But to the police, that does not matter because we don't matter. So please, all the suggestions you have and suggestions to get him committed or that he might have a tumor or dementia or schizophrenia, please stop. I have no fight left in me. I also have no legal ground over him. I can't care anymore, or I will drive myself insane. He still has a support net. He will never be alone. But that man is dangerous to me and my daughters, and the duty of a parent is above all else. So again, please stop suggesting what he could have or what I should do regarding him, because that job is no longer mine. First off, thank you all for your feedback and support. I took some time to process everything, and honestly, I was at my breaking point. The situation has escalated in ways I never imagined, and I've made some tough decisions. After I posted, things started to unravel quickly. About 5 months ago, when my husband's behavior first started escalating, I quietly consulted with a lawyer here. At that time, his delusions had begun to affect our daily lives, and I knew I needed legal advice. The divorce process requires a period of legal separation before the divorce can be finalized. We initiated this process, and I requested full custody of our 15-year-old daughter, given her increasing fear of her father. The court was also concerned and ordered a psychological evaluation for my husband to assess his mental fitness for parenting. A few weeks into the legal separation, my husband's paranoia worsened. He started placing Apple AirTags in my car and in our 15-year-old daughter's backpack, tracking our every move. My daughter was the one who found the AirTag in her bag and was terrified. When I confronted him, he insisted it was for our safety, but it was clear to me that his paranoia was spiraling out of control. This incident deeply affected our daughter, who began refusing to see her father. Around this time, my mother-in-law reached out to me. She was concerned because my husband had accused her of cheating on his father, something that was completely out of character for him. Father-in-law didn't believe it for a second, but was deeply worried about his state of mind. Her reaching out was a small but much-needed relief. She acknowledged that his behavior was erratic and offered her support, knowing that something was seriously wrong. My older daughter, 19, had also become involved in the situation. She had been quietly documenting her father's behavior for months. She recorded 3 different occasions where my husband went on delusive rants. The first was about how I'm supposedly cheating on him with one of my coworkers, a man I barely interact with. The second was about how our 15-year-old daughter was secretly dating someone older and lying to him about it. The third was about how the entire family was conspiring against him to make him look crazy. Watching these videos was heartbreaking, but they validated everything I'd been dealing with privately. Things escalated further when my husband almost attacked one of my colleagues. He had convinced himself that this man was the affair partner I was supposedly seeing behind his back. It took all my strength to physically separate them before the situation turned violent. As the legal process continued, my lawyer informed me that due to the severity of the situation and the psychological evaluation ordered by the court, my request for full custody was strongly considered. In Spain, courts typically prioritize the well-being of the child, and given my husband's mental state and the danger he posed, it seemed likely that I would be granted full custody of our 15-year-old daughter. She had made it clear that she didn't want to see her father, and the court was taking her wishes into account. In the midst of this, My 19-year-old daughter decided to take matters into her own hands. She posted the 3 videos she had recorded of her father's breakdowns on Instagram, along with a compilation of texts, photos, and other evidence she had collected over the past few months. Her intention was to show the world what we had been enduring, but it quickly turned into a public spectacle. The backlash was intense. Some people were horrified and reached out with sympathy and support, while others criticized us for airing dirty laundry and accused my daughter of betraying her father. As the divorce process continued, my husband's mental health became a significant factor. The psychological evaluation ordered by the court revealed the depth of his delusions, particularly around cheating and female sexuality. It became clear that he was not fit to make decisions regarding our daughter's well-being. The evaluation supported my claim for full custody, and the court is now in the process of finalizing that decision. In the meantime, all communication between my husband and me is being handled through our lawyers, and I'm ensuring that any interaction between him and our 15-year-old daughter is supervised. Given the severity of the situation and the damage done to our lives, I'm making plans to move away with my daughter once the legal proceedings are finalized. My reputation in our current community is shattered thanks to his delusions and the lies he has spread. Starting fresh somewhere new seems like the only way for us to heal and rebuild our lives. I never wanted it to come to this. I still care deeply for my husband, but I can't keep sacrificing our well-being for the sake of his image. The revelation that he's been lying to his therapist, or rather, his unqualified life coach, was a breaking point for me. I realized I couldn't trust him to get better on his own. Thankfully, some friends have started to see through his stories and are reaching out to support us, which gives me hope. But I know it's going to be a long, difficult road ahead. For anyone else in a similar situation, please know that you're not alone. This has been the hardest decision I've ever made, but sometimes you have to do what's best for your own mental health and safety, no matter how much it hurts. Thank you again for all the advice. I'm hopeful that this is the first step towards a better future, even if it's a painful one. Now for a few comments. Commenter Trick Parsley 3077 said, "I wish you and your daughter much peace and safety in the not-too-distant future, and I hope your STBEX gets the much-needed help he needs to get better. It sounds like he needs professional help immediately. Good luck to you." Commenter X Sugar Fairy said, "Protect the child and yourself at all cost, OP." Commenter Stinston555 said, You and your child may need some family therapy. Please consider it. I wish you well. I hope your STBX gets the help he needs so that one day he can be fully present and have a relationship with the child you share." Then OP replied, "We are in therapy, have not been for long, but that was an insurance issue." Now for the update. Last week, my husband showed up at our home completely out of control. He wasn't supposed to be there, but he came without any warning, and right away, he started yelling. He was accusing me and our 15-year-old daughter of being against him, saying we were plotting to destroy him. He was furious. I tried to calm him down, but it just made him angrier. He started throwing things and shouting that we were ruining his life. Then, he turned on our daughter. He called her a whore and said she was supposed to be the good one, but she had turned against him too. He was moving toward her like he was going to hit her, and I got between them to protect her. That's when he shoved me so hard I hit the wall, and he slapped me across the face. I was stunned, but he didn't stop. He grabbed my throat and started strangling me. I fought back, scratching and biting to get him off me. Meanwhile, my daughter managed to call the police while this was happening. She was terrified, but she stayed on the phone with them, begging for help. When the police arrived, they arrested him right away. He's now facing charges for domestic violence, and the court has put a restraining order in place. I can't even explain how scary that moment was, but I'm just glad my daughter was able to call for help. I don't know what would have happened otherwise. The legal process is moving quickly now, especially after the violence. The court has ordered a psychiatric evaluation to see if he's fit to even be around our daughters, let alone have visitation rights. At this point, I'm expecting full custody of my 15-year-old. She's been through so much, and she doesn't want to see her father anymore, even if it's supervised. I think the court will honor that, especially given everything that has happened. On top of all of this, the videos my 19-year-old daughter posted online have continued to spread. A lot of people have reached out with their own stories about the things my husband told them, things I didn't even know he had said. It's hard to hear, but it's also helping me understand just how bad it was. Some of the delusions he had included: he thought I was part of a secret group plotting to harm him. He believed our 19-year-old was spying on him for me. He thought our 15-year-old was trying to poison him by putting something in his food. He said his mother was having an affair with her best friend. He told his father that I hired a private investigator to follow him. He thought a family friend was trying to take over his business. He said one of my close friends was in love with me and trying to help me leave him. He told neighbors that I was going to sell our house and leave him with nothing. He believed my boss was helping me hide money in offshore accounts. He thought our daughters were hiding secret phones and communicating behind his back. He accused me of manipulating our children to turn them against him. He said his sister was trying to steal his inheritance. He believed I had hidden cameras in the house to watch him. He accused me of using witchcraft to control his mind. He thought I was planning to flee the country with our daughters. It's been overwhelming to hear how far his paranoia went. Some friends have apologized and now understand what was really happening, but others still believe his stories, and that's been hard. I'm not sure how to fix all the relationships that were damaged by this. I've also been getting a lot of questions about what has happened with my daughter's therapy and the divorce process, so I'll explain a bit. At first, we had to put my daughter into telehealth because we were waiting for an in-person spot with the therapist we were referred to by our doctor. It took some time to get that set up and approved, but now she's seeing someone regularly, and it's been helping. As for the divorce, it could have been simple, but my husband has turned it into a high-conflict situation. I've been so frustrated with how slow it's been going, especially because it didn't need to be like this. But because of everything he's done, the courts have had to be more careful, and it's taking longer than expected. I'm only communicating with him through lawyers now. Once everything is done, I plan to move with my 15-year-old to start over somewhere else, away from all of this. That's where things stand now. It's been a horrible, painful experience, but I'm doing my best to keep my daughter safe and make sure we can move forward. Thank you again to everyone who has supported us through this. It really means a lot. Now for a few comments. I went through this 13 years ago. It's like I just read my story. Unfortunately, my ex never snapped out of it and has been living with his parents ever since. Their life is a living nightmare. He refuses any help and thinks everyone is always out to get him. He's unable to keep a job, has no friends, stays in his room now 24/7. I'm concerned what's going to happen to him when they both pass. I'll be damned if he gets dumped on my son. Then OP replied, "That's scary. I'm going to make sure I work out a plan with my ex-in-laws so that my daughters won't get impacted in any way." Another commenter said, "Not the idiot, but he really needs a psychiatric evaluation. He sounds schizophrenic? There is no image here to protect. He is suffering some kind of mental illness, but I'm not going to give an armchair diagnosis. If this is the case, though, he can probably get medication. If they can find the right combination for him, that would be amazing, and he can go back to living a normal life. The only problem is him staying on his medication. All too often, people feel better on their medication than they think. Oh, I'm not sick anymore, and they go off it and it comes back. But that is something he needs to sort out." Another commenter replied, "OP stated she does not care for any diagnoses, so this comment doesn't benefit her or anyone really. Damage is done, and if I was the daughter, I don't care if he has the capacity to live a normal life. He's never being spoken to again, and will have a restraining order and domestic violence on his file forever. He won't be allowed near them." Then OP replied, "Thank you. He wanted to hurt our daughter and tried to unalive me. I don't care anymore. He does not want help. We are deathly afraid of him. He ruined our lives. He traumatized all of us. He hurt us so deeply. My daughter has attacks every day when the phone rings or a car the same color as his drives past us. I can't sleep at night. I have been prescribed sleeping medication, but I am too scared to take it in case I sleep through my ex-husband ending the life of me or our daughter. We are so tired. Another commenter said, "I'm so sorry you and your kiddo's family have to go through this. It sounds like he has had a psychotic break, and I'm glad to hear he is at least being evaluated. I hope you have a strong support system. Don't feel you have to deal with all of this alone. It's totally okay to lean on others for strength." Not the idiot. Then OP replied, "I don't really. That's why I keep coming back here." Am I the idiot for feeling guilty about my brother's sacrifices while he continues to struggle with his trauma? I, 18, female, realized all the sacrifices my older brother, 25, male, made for us. Created this account just for this story. Also, I want to keep in mind that I'm sharing this story from my perspective and from what my brother told me, so I don't know if anything is completely accurate, but I also don't have a reason to doubt the accuracy. Me and my siblings grew up in a highly hurtful environment. Besides my older brother, I have 2 younger siblings, a younger brother and a younger sister. Our parents were addicted to alcohol. They would drink every day, and it was like a forced round of Russian roulette every day. We either had luck, and they would just argue downstairs with each other, or they would come upstairs to release their anger onto us. And when they did, my older brother would stand guard at the stairs to make sure we were safe. He would try to make them focus on him, so whenever they came upstairs, they would horribly beat him. When they tried to enter any of our rooms, he would provoke them so they would focus on him and beat him until they were too tired to focus on us. While he protected us from them, he sacrificed his own childhood. Instead of doing something he liked, he educated himself and learned how to do programming each and every single day. He knew that something from the IT and programming sector would get him a high-paying job, and his goal was to get out of there and take us with him. But to take care of us, he needed money. He also never had friends at school because he saw friends as a waste of time for his goals, let alone the fact that he never properly finished his education because he was more worried about us than his own future. When he was 18, he did an internship for a local IT office that was looking for employees. After a few weeks, he got the job and was making good money. After he moved out, he found an apartment with enough space for all of us. From that point on, he tried everything to get us out of there. A bit later, my parents got arrested because my younger sister came to school with bruises from the beating she took from our mom before. After my brother was gone, we had to take the beatings, but at least we didn't have to wait for long. After my parents got arrested, we started to live with my brother. He had to do a bit more stuff so that my younger siblings could live with us too, but he somehow managed to convince authorities to let them stay with us. I will never understand where he took all his energy from to do all this. I was still underage when we continued to live with him, but in his new job, he made enough money to make sure we had it good, and he finally gave us the loving and caring home we craved for such a long time. I adore him so much. He was so selfless all the time and rather took care of us than of himself. Yesterday, something happened that made me want to share his story. When I woke up, I went to get some breakfast, and when I passed my brother's door, I heard him crying in his room. I knocked at his door and went inside, and the moment he saw me, he wiped away his tears and smiled. He asked if I was fine. I didn't feel the need to answer. I just hugged him. I felt so sorry for him. He sacrificed everything so that we were safe. He couldn't hold in his tears any longer, and I told him that he should probably go to therapy because what he went through would be way too much to handle for everyone. I adore him so much, and I will forever be grateful for every sacrifice he made for us. He did not deserve any of the things our parents put him through. We as a whole never deserved what our parents put us through. They were supposed to be a safe space for all of us, but instead, they were abusers. I will help my brother, and I will make sure he feels loved too. He deserves to have a safe space too. He wants to be ours, so I want to be his. Thank you for reading. 3. Now for a few important comments. Your brother is a goddamn superhero. I rarely ever cry while reading a story, but this was awesome to read, and I got a bit misty-eyed, not gonna lie. That man deserves every bit of happiness he so desperately craved over the years. Now that his goal is almost complete, I'm assuming your younger siblings don't have too long to go before they graduate high school. He is going to need support finally getting started on actually living his own life. I say, when you get the chance, pay to take him out for some sort of childish adventure. Something that will allow him to live a little of that childhood he missed out on before he gets too old to actually enjoy it. OP, I actually thought about doing this. His birthday is in a month, and I thought about giving him a bit of the childhood he never had. Now for the 3-month update. My post is 3 months old, but I thought I might give you an update just in case you're interested. In the last 3 months, I got a job and earned money myself. I wanted to take some weight off his shoulders and took care of many things so that he doesn't have to. After everything he went through, he deserves a break, and I try to make sure he learns to take care of his mental health, which is still pretty bad after everything that happened. I honestly underestimated how bad it was and still is. I think that this shield he created to protect himself through the years of trauma is now going to crumble. But with it down now, all the emotions held back and all the pent-up pain come up, and emotional breakdowns happened way too often. He is aware of that, and he tries to control it, but it doesn't work. He's in therapy, but it will take a while for him to feel better. You see, my younger siblings and I were traumatized too, but at least we were kept safe enough by him so that we could express and let out our emotions. He never had that safe space. He had to bottle up everything. It's a good thing that now he has us as his safe space, but I just don't know if it's enough. He is the most important person in our life, and we will be there for him. We make sure every day that he's loved. I mentioned in the previous post that his birthday was in a month. On that day, we got him a birthday cake and some presents. We celebrated with him. It was wonderful. I know I probably talked too much about him, but I feel so bad that everything traumatizing that happened to him came from him protecting us. I can't stop feeling guilty, or that I at least should have interfered way earlier. He assured me it's not my fault, and I know that, but it's hard to describe. Just imagine you walk across a street and a car is about to hit you because you didn't pay attention before crossing the street. Someone pushes you aside to save you, but then this person doesn't have legs anymore, and you can't stop feeling guilty because you know the person probably would have kept their legs if you would have just paid attention earlier. That's how I feel. All I know is that I will be there for him. That's the least I can do. Am I the idiot for kicking out my husband after he poisoned my plants and stole from our daughter? My, female 31, husband, male 32, has been ending the life of my houseplants with bleach. I have many houseplants, including some that were quite expensive and were gifts from my sister. Within the last 6 months, at least a third of my plants have died. I have had houseplants my whole life due to my late mother's own love of houseplants, and I know a lot about plants. The death of the plants didn't seem related to lack of light, inconsistent watering, lack of nutrients, or even root rot. They just died very suddenly. I tried not to let it upset me too much, because plants die, and it was not any of the expensive ones until now. My sister gave me a 5-leaf Monstera albo rooted plant for my birthday 2 months ago. It was beautiful. This morning, I was crying pretty hard about it as I unpotted it and took a look at the roots. I was looking hard at this plant and roots to see if its death was pest-related, and that's when I noticed a smell. I sniffed my potting mix and smelled bleach. The only other adult person in my home with unlimited and unobserved access to my plants is my husband. I wasn't able to talk to him for several hours, but when I could speak to him, I very calmly but very directly asked if he had done something to my plants. He denied it at first. I said I smelled bleach in the potting mix of the albo my sister had gotten me, and that the only person that could have put it there was him, and he caved. He said he was putting small amounts of bleach into the fertilizer water jugs I prepare. I started crying. I asked him why. Why would you do this? You know I love these plants. Why would you destroy them? He didn't really answer, nor did he really apologize. The trust I had in him is absolutely gone. I think maybe counseling can help us, but he is the one that did this, but I'm the one that would have to set up the counseling. The angry part of me just wants to be done with the relationship. I know that might seem overboard as we are married and share a child, but I feel now that I'm not safe around my husband. I thank everyone for giving advice. The townhome we live in is mine and my sister's, our inheritance from my mother. My husband has an office den/gaming room that is his personal space, and there are no plants there. There are also no plants in the kitchen. I'm not a plant hoarder. Like he has a room for himself, I also have a sunroom, and that is where the concentration of plants live. He has no reason to go in there. It's not access to our backyard or anything. I saw some people saying maybe he's sick of bugs, but I do not have a fungus gnat problem. I did see one person ask, why did I not smell the bleach when I was watering? And I can only say my nose wasn't all up in there maybe. I also usually use a natural systemic in my fertilizer water called SNS 209 that smells heavily of rosemary, but I ran out last month and haven't replaced yet. After our convo yesterday, I needed space. I spent the night in my daughter's room on a trundle bed. I am going to text my husband today. He usually communicates easier and opens up more via text rather than face-to-face. I'm going to ask for a reason, and I'll see what he says. Sorry, I'm not sure if I'm supposed to update on a separate post. My husband won't be welcome in my home anymore, and I need to find a lawyer ASAP on Monday. I did text him, and he admitted again to putting bleach in my fertilizer water. He says it wasn't every jug I ever made. So that explains why it wasn't all my plants dying, but randomly over the past 6 months. His exact words were that I deserved to be knocked down a peg. After the text communication, I went home from work early and I entered his office. I usually respect his space absolutely. I don't even go in there to grab dirty dishes. I don't know what I was looking for, but the hundreds of comments saying he was working up to something worse or already was doing something else really worried me. I went in there and found a drawer full of my daughter's dolls and dollhouse furniture and little toys. I bought her that dollhouse for her 4th birthday last year, and she has loved it. She takes such good care of her toys, but something always ends up missing, and it's always my husband who notices. He lectures her about keeping track of her things and how he won't let her play with her dollhouse if she keeps losing things. He keeps going till she starts to sob. When I hear this going on, I always step in and ask him to go take a break. I assumed he was losing his cool. I've told him this is not how to deal with this with a kid, and he says he just wants her to grow up responsible. I now see it was some weird scheme or setup or something. He would steal the stuff and stash it away and point out it was gone to berate our daughter till she cried. My sister and her husband's dad came over this afternoon, and they've changed the locks. I've texted him to tell him he isn't coming back and that he can come on Saturday morning to grab his essential things, but that my brother-in-law and another man would be there to watch. Sorry if this is unclear or things seem missing. This Reddit post isn't my priority. I will probably not be updating again. Thank you to everyone worried about my safety. Now for a few comments. Liu1845 said, "Sheesh, I'd worry about what he's putting in my coffee." Meow Meow Now commented, "This guy is terrifying and he couldn't even come up with a reason." Texas Popcorn 424 added, "This is just so odd. Like he had no explanation, no reason. He just intentionally went out of his way to hurt you. Seems like he has some serious issues." Hippopotasaurus Rex suggested, "Jealousy. This screams jealousy. That or punishment." Frufangirl shared, "If he's anything like my dad, he's jealous of the love and attention she gives her plants. My dad got enraged my mom made sugar water and doted on the hummingbirds because he didn't get the attention." Update. 6 months later, I've recently got some messages asking for me to update and let the internet know I'm safe. My daughter and I are both safe. Without getting into too much detail, but to satiate the curious. My husband, the man I thought I knew, has changed so much that I think of it like him ripping off a mask. He's sworn at me, screamed at me, and pushed me to the ground twice and kicked me in the face. Our entire marriage, I was never ever afraid of physical violence from this man. The police have been involved. Divorce is still in progress. After an initial period of intense anger, my husband seemingly stopped caring at all, though. He said he doesn't want any custody, and he wants to give up his parental rights of our daughter. He doesn't see her. In the last month, I have heard he actually has a new girlfriend. His parents still talk to me. I was on good terms with his mom. Also, a friend of my husband's, who has been friends with him since college, reached out to me to ask what is going on. We texted. He says my husband has ghosted that entire group of friends he still had after someone in the group called him out for some sort of asshole-ish behavior. My daughter is bright and wonderful. There's been such a profound change to her behavior since her dad's been gone. She's happy and silly and joyful. I guess there's been a change in both her and my behavior. I think of it like the frog in the boiling pot. I was sitting there boiling to my death and never realized we lived in a house of walking on eggshells. If husband was upset, he would infect the house with hostility. I'm not sure I can describe it. I was constantly on guard and never able to relax. I was not afraid of physical violence, though, so I don't want to describe it as something more serious than it was. Thank you all for making me realize I was in that boiling pot. This sub says I need to pose a question to post. What can I do for my daughter to let her know she's safe and loved always? I know I failed her whenever I heard her dad yelling at her about the dollhouse. I can say I tried to step in at all times when I heard it going on, but that doesn't seem enough. I feel so guilty. She is on a waiting list for therapy. Our structure is still the same. She looks like she's thriving, but I just don't know. Now for a few comments. Poster bomber. I think both you and she should be in some type of therapy. This way, when stuff comes up with her, you'll have someone professional to help you do the right things so she can grow into a healthy, trusting woman. You can say sorry. You can say that you made the wrong decision and you will never make it again. And no matter what, you're always on her side now. It's okay to cry, just get the words out. Definitely this. My dad was very hurtful, and while my mom was always my safe space, she never left him. When I became an adult, it shames me to admit it, but I started to resent her. I could never understand why she didn't protect me more by getting me out of there. She passed away before I was old enough to ask those questions, so I'll never know. But you got your daughter out of there, which is already a huge win, but I think apologizing to her will help a lot too.